I'm Michelle with Michelle Loves Books. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing the rapid fire book tag. The creator of this tag is Girl Reading. I will leave her video linked in the description box below. Ebook or physical book? Physical book. I've really been trying to get away from my aversion to reading ebooks, but I really want to get into reading ebooks more so that I can read anytime, anywhere. Paperback or hardback, both of them for different reasons. Hardbacks obviously are a lot more sturdier. I can drop them in my bag without worrying about them getting destroyed. Paperbacks, not so much. But paperbacks are cheaper, they're more flexible and things like that, which is really nice. Hardbacks are a lot more aesthetically pleasing on my shelves. Online or in-store book shopping. I really like in-store book shopping. I don't actually do a whole lot of online shopping for books, not that I'm opposed to it. I just really like the experience, and the atmosphere of bookstores is just really nice. I love the coffee smell while you're walking around looking at books. I like touching them and filling them and flipping through the books before I buy them. I like seeing what's available, even though I may or may not be interested in it. I will walk through all of the aisles, even if it's a genre like I'm not interested in. Trilogies or series. I actually just said this in another video that I love a good trilogy, but I think it kind of just depends on the story and where it's going and how in-depth they want to go with it. I think certain stories should not go beyond a trilogy, whereas other stories, like I just want more of it, and a series works really well. So I don't really have a true preference, I guess, except that, sometimes a trilogy is just the right amount to get a really good story across. You can get immersed in the story, but it's not too long either, or it's also not just continuing to go for no reason at all, where the excitement kind of starts to drop away. The Sookie Stackhouse, this is not the first in the series. I think this is book 2? I'm actually missing book 1. But these Sookie Stackhouse books, there are like 13 books total in the series. I think I read the first 12 books. Or 11 books maybe. It kind of started losing steam for me after book 5. Heroes or villains? I definitely have to go with villains on this one. I just think that they're more interesting. A book that you want everyone to read. Ever since I read this book, whenever anyone asks me for a book recommendation, I always tell them that Six of Crows is my all-time favorite book, and everyone needs to read it. I think that even if you're not a fantasy reader, you can appreciate this book because it's got a lot more elements to it. This has so much action in it, and it's really tight writing that it can capture anybody's attention. Recommend an underrated book, maybe like short story collections. As a whole, I feel like short story collections are just really not talked about that much. But if I was just to pick one book I read recently was called Enchantée. I don't think I've ever really heard anyone talking about this. I think that a lot of people would be really interested in it because it has a really unique magic system, betrayal going on. We've got pretty interesting characters. I just feel like there's so many layers to it. It's a really good book. The last book you read, that would be The Good Neighbors by Holly Black. So this is a graphic novel, obviously the first in a series. Honestly, I wasn't that impressed with it. That was the last book I read. The last book you bought is Truly Devious. I actually found this at a thrift store. I was really excited to find a copy of this. I've been really wanting to read it. I did have it checked out on audiobook, and I think I was just in the wrong mood. I kind of had a hard time really getting into it. I think that this is maybe one of those books that's just better if you read it. The weirdest thing that you've used as a bookmark. Used books, yes or no? In fact, that's kind of the only books I ever buy. I very rarely ever buy a new book. Top 3 favorite genres, I'm gonna have to go with fantasy, dystopian, and science fiction. Borrow or buy, I prefer to buy books because that way I don't feel rushed to read them. I don't feel like bogged down by this sense of like I need to read it right now. I can write in the books, I can reread them, and I can have a library so that when I'm in the mood to go pick up a book, I have different things available for whatever mood I'm in. Long or short books? I'm gonna have to go with short books because long books tend to be pretty intimidating. I have quite a few on my shelf that I was like, oh, I'm gonna read this book, and like it's keep sitting on my shelf because I'm like, oh, that's a really big book. I just feel like I'm reading a lot more. Also, I could be wrong here, but I feel like long books will have really slow moments, and I think that that's what's holding me back. Long or short chapters, again, I'm gonna have to go with short chapters because I tend to have a lot more short reading stints than I do really long reading stints because I've got kids and like they like to interrupt you. I don't like stopping in the middle of a chapter. I like to at least read a full chapter before I take a break. Name the first 3 books you think of: City of Ashes, City of Glass, and Six of Crows. Books that make you laugh or cry, definitely gonna have to go with books that make me laugh. I really just hate crying in general. I hate movies or books that make me cry. I would probably avoid them if I know it's going to be a sad, heart-wrenching book. If I don't know and I'm surprised by it, you know, that happens, and not like I'm going to say that it's a bad book because it made me cry. I'm sure it was a really good book to stir up those emotions, but in general, like, I really don't like to cry. I don't like to be sad. Sadness lasts a lot longer, and like, that sucks. Our world or fictional worlds? Totally fictional worlds. Audiobooks, yes or no? Yes. I love audiobooks. I just love that audiobooks are so readily available and so easy to get through my library, and I can just check them out digitally. They return themselves. I always have some audiobook checked out. Even if I don't get to it, I like having it available so I can just play it whenever I need something to listen to. Like when I'm doing like tedious tasks, I find them a lot easier to get through if I have an audiobook. So absolutely audiobooks. Do you ever judge a book by its cover? Absolutely. Sometimes I'll pick up books just because the cover is really pretty and I'm like, well, it must be good. There are some books, sadly, that they have a really ugly cover and like they're immediately not appealing to me. And I actually had this idea to do a challenge in regards to that whole idea. So I think next year sometime I might actually go and do that. Book to movie or book to TV adaptations? Honestly, I think it really depends on the book. I think that fantasy books really should be TV shows so that they really have the time to explore the world, explore the politics. I feel like a lot gets left out in a movie because it's really hard to, such a complicated world like any fantasy world, and squeeze it into a 2-hour movie. And sometimes I swear, I feel like, for a couple examples, Sharp Objects, I was like, how did they make 8 episodes out of this tiny book? They actually did a pretty good job with that. I felt the exact same way about The Handmaid's Tale. I felt like that was a pretty short book, but that is a dystopian book, so I kind of see how they did it, but I did feel like there are some episodes where I was losing interest, and they like made another season out of it too. There's at least 2 seasons. I don't know if they're making a 3rd season. But then you have like Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows, and they're gonna try to turn that into a TV series, but they're like grouping them together. Like, I don't know how that's all gonna work, and I feel like that should be like 2 different TV series, but it's like one of my most beloved universe ever. And I think they said they're only gonna do like a mini series out of it, which that kind of sucks. I would love it to be 7 seasons worth of content. A movie or TV show you preferred to its book? I actually just mentioned some, but the one I most recently read was Sharp Objects. I was really disappointed in the book, and a lot of things that they did in the TV show or the miniseries, it's a series of 8 episodes, they actually added a lot into it, which I felt fixed a lot of the problems I had with the book. And finally, series or standalone, I like both of them, especially because whenever I read a series, I like to be like fully immersed in it, and I will just like read book after book after book, and I don't really give myself a lot of time in between. A Court of Thorns and Roses series, I know there was a point where I felt kind of bogged down in the second book time, and I was like really needing a standalone because I didn't want to start another series in the middle of a series, so I picked up like a standalone book in the middle. So I feel like they're both essential. So that wraps up the rapid fire book tag. Thank you for watching. Bye.